All right, hello and welcome back. This is part 2 of the Do Your Own Research. You can see right now we are where we left off. I'm going to move kind of quick today just because this is going to be a pretty long program. So I'm going to keep the very beginning from what I had last time, the from COVID import COVID and info equals COVID source is worldometers. I do need to import 2 other things here in order for this to work. First I need numpy, and I'm going to say import numpy or numpy as np. And I also need scipy, or skippy if you want to call it that. And that's going to be as st, scipy.stat specifically. So import scipy.stats as st. All right, another thing that I'm going to need, I'm going to create a list of values. So I'm going to call it plist. These are going to be some proportions that I have, and I just need to set it so that I can append to it later. So plist is going to equal a blank list, and that's it. I have my info as the source worldometers. And what I want to do is I want to create a list of all of the countries. And what I can do is I can say countries equals COVID, info, that's where my information is coming from, dot list countries. You can see that right there, take the shortcut. So that'll give me the list of all of the countries. And now I want to iterate through these countries. So for I in countries, I want to set each individual country into equal to something. So country is going to equal info dot, and then get country by name again. So get country by name. You saw that last time, but in the last time I just used my country of the United States, USA. This time I want to go through all of the countries, so I coming from that list. So for every country in this list, it's going to do whatever we do next. So the country is set equal to that country, and I need a little bit of information. So first I want to do the country name. I'll call it CNAME. And that's going to equal the country, brackets, oops, that's not what I meant. Okay, brackets, quotes, and single quotes is probably better. Not that it really matters. And we're going to go country. So that's just going to tell me the name of the country is now stored into the variable CNAME. Next, I want to know the number of deaths in the country. So we're going to say cdeaths. And that's going to equal country, square brackets, single quotes, and deaths. Getting a lot of stock notifications, and not good ones. All right, so we have cdeaths equals country, deaths. And then finally, I want to know the population of each of the countries. So I'm going to call it CPOP, not to be confused with K-pop, equals country, and this is going to be population. And another one. All right, so I have my population. Now I'm going to do an if then with some exceptions. For those who aren't real programmers, this next part might seem a little bit weird. I'll try and explain it as best as I can while still being quick about it. So first, I only want to consider more populous countries. Some of the lesser populated countries we're just going to exclude them from the list because you get some weird cases when the data size is too small. If you want to do it differently, that's fine. This is you doing your research. You don't have to include this part. I am. So if the C population, so for the population of the country in question, is greater than 1 million, then I need it to do something. Now what I want to do is I want to make a death proportion, but because of the way the list works, some of the lists are some of the things that show up on the list are like the entire continent with blank data. So it can cause certain errors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use exception handling, and I'm going to say try dprop for death proportion is equal to, I want this to be a float, and it's going to be C deaths divided by C pop. So the number of deaths divided by the population of the country. So if that's the case, if basically if the population isn't 0, this will give us the death proportion. And I'm going to accept saying if it gives an error to the program, like if it is cpop equals 0, we're going to accept that the dprop equals 0. Could have just dropped this entirely, but I just wanted to set it equal to 0, just kind of indicating that, you know, we're going to give a value to the proportion, because on the next step we were looking for things that are not 0. So we're excluding any country which hasn't had any deaths whatsoever, basically. So if dprop is greater than 0. Oops, that is the wrong button. 0.0001. So we want at least 1 out of 10,000 dead, or otherwise they're not going to show up on our list. And if that's the case, then we want to add this thing to our proportion list. So what we do is we are going to say plist dot append and we're going to add that proportion to our list. We also want to print the name of the country and what its death proportion is, and we're going to format that a little bit too, so it looks a little bit nicer. So we're going to start with print CNAME, so we know what country we're talking about, comma, and here's something else that's a little weird if you're not very experienced. We want quotes, curly braces, colon, 0.2%. And then we need our closed curly braces, close quotes, dot format, and we are going to format our dprop, our death proportion. What this does is, instead of giving us this big long decimal, it's going to give us a percentage rounded to the nearest hundredth of a percent. It's just a lot easier to look at. Okay, all of that has been done. And now if I run it now, which I will do, mostly to make sure we didn't have any mistakes, it's going to give us a list of all the countries that fit our criteria anyway, with the death percentage of all of these. So you can see like Djibouti had 0.02%, Syria 0.02%, you can scroll through all of these. Sri Lanka 0.07, yada yada yada. And at the top, USA 0.27%, The first time I tried doing this with just a chosen list of countries, the USA came out on top. But if you scroll down, you'll find some countries that had higher death percentages, like Peru, for example, 0.61, Romania at 0.31. So there we go. Whoops, pardon that. That's our list, and I'm just going to hit the garbage can to clear that out. And I just want to add one more thing to the bottom of our program. And this is what's known as a confidence interval. And that's a statistics idea. And you're going to have to look up yourself what a confidence interval means because I don't have time to explain it in great detail. But basically we say with 95% confidence, the true mean proportion is going to exist between these two values. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set CI for confidence interval equals, and we're doing the SciPy stats, and we're going to do the normal interval and we're going to set alpha equal to 0.95 because it's a 95% confidence interval. We are going to set the LOC, which is going to be basically our center point, our estimated mean, and that's going to be np dot mean, and that is going to be from our p-list. So it's going to find the mean value of all of the proportions that we added to our list. And I need to say what the scale is. That's saying how far above and below does it go. So scale is going to equal ST dot standard error, assuming M stands for of the mean. And that's going to be p-list again. So that's creating the confidence interval. Now the confidence interval on its own will look okay, but there's a lot of decimals again, so I kind of want to format this again. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say the lower bounds is going to equal my confidence interval, brackets 0 for the first term. And again, if you're not really a programmer at heart, everything starts at 0. So 0 is the first, 1 is the second, and so on. So 0, my first term, is going to be my lower bounds. My upper bounds, so I'll just call it up. And that's going to equal the confidence interval of 1. And finally, I want to print this information out. And I don't want to be too fancy with it since this has already been a long program, but I want to format the way I did last time too. So quotes, curly braces, colon, 0.2%, close curly braces, close quotes, dot format. And this is going to be for my lower. I hope I remember to put that extra parenthesis back on. And I also want my upper the same thing. So we are going to do, again, quotes, curly braces, colon, 0.2%, close braces, close quotes, dot format. And this time we are formatting the upper. And here I am remembering to put that extra parentheses back on. All right, this should work unless we made a typo somewhere. And again, it's going to list all those countries, and then you'll notice at the end, right above where it says PYTHO3IDE run N, right above that it says 0.11% and 0.16%. This is saying that with 95% confidence, we can say that the true death proportion worldwide is between 0.11 and 0.16. So that is it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned a lot and you can explore with this because there's a million things you can do. So from here on out, it's up to you. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and we'll catch you next time.